Welcome to InfoStream, your daily current. Unsure what to listen to? Turn to us for today's headlines. Stay informed. U.S. considers airspace closure over Venezuela. Tensions rise between nations. Netanyahu seeks pardon in trial. Legal proceedings continue. Gaza death toll surpasses 70,000. Israeli offensive intensifies. Black Sea conflict escalates. Ukraine targets Russian assets. Trump pardons Honduran leader. Political move announced. World Cup draw in doubt. Visa issues impact Iran. Snap rollout causes disruption. Government programs face challenges. Holiday spending reveals economic divide. Consumer behavior varies significantly. Gaza children receive royal support. Humanitarian aid provided. Renaming plan rejected in Ireland. Political debate ongoing. Pro-Palestine protests lead to arrests. Demonstrations spark unrest. Southeast Asia faces severe flooding. Natural disasters impact region. U.S. threatens airspace closure over Venezuela amid rising tensions. The United States has issued a stark warning, spearheaded by President Donald Trump, declaring a potential closure of Venezuelan airspace, escalating tensions between the two nations. This action follows a sustained pressure campaign by the U.S. administration aimed at ousting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and disrupting illicit activities, particularly drug trafficking. The U.S. has deployed significant military assets, including the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier and approximately 15,000 troops, within striking distance of Venezuela as part of Operation Southern Spear. Trump's initial declaration, made via Truth Social, prompted immediate condemnation from Venezuela, with Foreign Minister calling it a colonialist threat and an illegal aggression. The U.S. maintains it possesses no legal authority to close another country's airspace. The Federal Aviation Administration had previously issued warnings to airlines regarding heightened military activity. The administration's strategy involves multiple approaches, including the CIA's potential operation inside Venezuela and the designation of Maduro and his allies as a foreign terrorist organization. Trump has explored various military options, including land strikes, and has engaged in direct communication with Maduro, most recently through a phone call last week. While Maduro initially signaled a willingness to step down within 18 months, the U.S. ultimately demanded immediate departure. Despite the heightened rhetoric, the immediate impact on the Venezuelan populace remains limited, though government repression is palpable, with at least 54 individuals detained for expressing dissent. Public life in Caracas continues largely unaffected, characterized by Christmas carols and Black Friday announcements alongside Maduro's frequent television appearances. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has expressed support for Trump's approach, framing Venezuela as a drug caliphate. The U.S. military's ongoing operations, including boat strikes against drug traffickers, contribute to the overall pressure. While communication between the U.S. and Venezuela remains ongoing, with discussions about potential future interactions, the core objective remains the removal of Maduro from power. The situation is characterized by a complex interplay of military deployments, diplomatic engagement, and underlying political instability within Venezuela. Netanyahu requests pardon amidst ongoing trial. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has formally requested a pardon from President Isaac Herzog, marking a significant development in his ongoing corruption trial. The request, submitted alongside a letter outlining his belief it serves the public interest, comes after years of legal proceedings and accusations of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Netanyahu's trial, initiated in May 2020, involves three separate cases centered around alleged favors granted to businessman Shaul Elovich in exchange for positive media coverage. The president's office confirmed receipt of the request and stated Herzog would consider it with great care and responsibility. Netanyahu's letter emphasized his commitment to national unity and restoring public trust in Israeli institutions, particularly in light of current security challenges and diplomatic opportunities. He has repeatedly maintained his innocence and expressed frustration with the prolonged legal process, which has deeply divided Israeli society. U.S. President Donald Trump has previously urged Herzog to grant a full pardon, citing Netanyahu's role as a formidable and decisive wartime prime minister. Trump's intervention, alongside the support of far-right Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir, highlights the political weight behind the request. However, the opposition, led by Yair Lapid, vehemently opposes an unconditional pardon, demanding an admission of guilt, remorse, and Netanyahu's immediate retirement from political life. A Channel 12 poll revealed that 48% of Israelis oppose an unconditional pardon, while 44% support it. The Israel Democracy Institute raised concerns about the president's potential to bypass the legal system if he were to issue a pardon before or during the trial. The trial's complexity and protracted nature suggest it will continue for several more years, including stages of testimony, judgment, and potential appeals. There is no set timeline for Herzog's decision, reflecting the sensitive and politically charged nature of the request and its potential ramifications for the future of Israeli politics. Netanyahu's move represents a strategic attempt to expedite the legal process and potentially influence public opinion, while the opposition seeks to uphold the principles of justice and accountability. Gaza death toll exceeds 70,000 following continued Israeli offensive. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas has resulted in a catastrophic loss of life in Gaza, with the Hamas-run health ministry reporting a death toll exceeding 70,000 individuals since the commencement of Israel's military operation on October 7th. The figures represent a significant escalation of the humanitarian crisis within the region. Despite a ceasefire agreement established on October 10th, Israel has continued conducting airstrikes, attributing these actions to violations of the truce. Recovery efforts are hampered by the persistent presence of uncollected bodies beneath the rubble of destroyed buildings. Recent reports detail the tragic deaths of two young brothers, Fadi and Juma Abu Asi, who were killed in a drone strike on Saturday. According to the family, the boys were collecting firewood when the attack occurred. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, stated that the strike targeted two individuals identified as suspects who had crossed the Yellow Line, a demarcation zone intended to prevent incursions into Israeli territory. The continued operation has sparked widespread international condemnation and raised serious concerns about civilian casualties. The Hamas-run health ministry's figures are difficult to independently verify, but they underscore the immense scale of the devastation and the urgent need for humanitarian aid to reach the affected population. The IDF maintains that its actions are proportionate and aimed at dismantling Hamas's capabilities, while simultaneously acknowledging the challenges of minimizing civilian harm. The situation remains volatile, with ongoing efforts focused on securing a more durable ceasefire and facilitating the delivery of essential supplies to Gaza. Escalation in the Black Sea. Ukraine targets Russian oil tankers, and recent events in the Black Sea highlight a significant escalation in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, primarily focused on disrupting Russia's oil revenues. Ukrainian naval forces utilized Sea Baby drones to strike two Russian oil tankers, the Kairos and Virat, both flagged to the Gambia and operating within the Shadow Fleet. These tankers, part of Russia's network designed to circumvent Western sanctions, were attacked off the Turkish coast, with the Virat suffering a second strike. No casualties were reported, though significant damage was inflicted on both vessels. The attacks represent a deliberate strategy by Ukraine to directly target Russian maritime operations and signal the vulnerability of ships transporting oil within the Black Sea. The use of Ukrainian-produced drones underscores the evolving nature of the conflict and Kiev's willingness to engage in direct action. Adding to the instability, a major consortium transporting oil from the Caspian region suspended loading operations at the Russian Black Sea port of Novorossiysk following an unmanned boat attack, marking the third such incident. Kazakh officials expressed strong condemnation of the attack, emphasizing the importance of uninterrupted energy supplies. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pursuing diplomatic efforts to end the war, dispatching a delegation led by Rustem Umerov to the United States for further negotiations. This delegation's visit coincides with ongoing talks involving U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow. These developments underscore the multifaceted nature of the conflict, encompassing military actions, economic disruption, and diplomatic maneuvering. The situation remains volatile, with potential implications for global energy markets and international relations. The Kazakh government's response highlights the broader regional concerns regarding security and stability. Trump announces intent to pardon Honduran ex-president, backs conservative candidate. Former United States President Donald Trump has announced his intention to pardon Juan Orlando Hernández, the recently convicted former president of Honduras, who was sentenced to 45 years in prison for drug trafficking and firearms offenses. The decision follows Hernández's conviction in March 2024, stemming from charges of conspiring to import cocaine into the U.S. and possessing machine guns. Trump asserted that Hernández received a very harshly and unfairly treatment, highlighting the perceived injustice of the sentence. Hernández, a prominent figure within Honduras' National Party, served as president from 2014 to 2022 and was extradited to the U.S. in April 2022 to face trial. The prosecution presented evidence of Hernández's involvement in a violent drug trafficking conspiracy, alleging he facilitated the smuggling of hundreds of tons of cocaine to the United States. Simultaneously, Trump has offered his support to Nasri Tito Asfura, a conservative candidate vying for the Honduran presidency, scheduled for a general election on Sunday. Asfura, the former mayor of Tegucigalpa, is campaigning against Rixi Moncada, a former defense minister aligned with the ruling Labour Party, and Salvador Nasrallah, a television host representing the Liberal Party. Trump has criticized Moncada and Nasrallah, characterizing Nasrallah as borderline communist, aiming to split the vote. He praised Asfura for his stance against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, with whom Trump has engaged in diplomatic tensions. The U.S. government's actions in Honduras are linked to counter-drug trafficking efforts, justifying a military buildup in the Caribbean and targeted strikes on vessels suspected of involvement in narcotics transport. These operations, dubbed Operation Southern Spear, have resulted in the deaths of over 80 people, though the legality of these strikes has been questioned by legal experts due to the lack of concrete evidence of drug smuggling. Honduras is currently governed by President Xiomara Castro, who maintains a cooperative relationship with the U.S., including preserving an extradition treaty. The U.S. military maintains a base in Honduras supporting efforts to combat transnational organized crime. The situation reflects ongoing tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela, further complicated by accusations of narco-terrorism and the strategic implications of drug trafficking in the region. Record-breaking Fabergé egg auction Looms, a significant event in the world of art and collectibles, is rapidly approaching as Christie's in London prepares to auction a remarkable Fabergé imperial egg, a piece anticipated to shatter existing auction records. The auction, scheduled for December 2nd, centers around a 1913 winter egg, one of the very few remaining Fabergé eggs still held privately. This particular egg was commissioned by the Russian emperors to commemorate Easter, representing a pinnacle of craftsmanship and imperial extravagance. The estimated value of the winter egg is in excess of $20 million, a staggering sum that would not only establish a new record for a Fabergé egg surpassing the record it previously set in 2002, but also represent a substantial investment for the buyer. Experts believe this auction will continue a recent trend of record-breaking sales within the art market. CNN's Fiona Sinclair-Scott recently visited Christie's to gain insight into the upcoming auction. The significance of the winter egg lies in its historical importance, its exquisite design, and its rarity. Fabergé eggs were created for Russian royalty and are highly sought after by collectors worldwide. The auction is expected to draw considerable attention from both established collectors and newcomers to the world of Fabergé treasures. The auction represents a pivotal moment in the market for these iconic pieces, signaling continued high demand and substantial financial investment. The auction's outcome is keenly anticipated by art enthusiasts and investors alike. Iran's participation in 2026 World Cup draw in jeopardy due to visa restrictions. Iran's Football Federation has announced plans to boycott the 2026 World Cup draw scheduled to take place in Washington, D.C. on Friday, December 5th, due to significant difficulties obtaining sufficient visas for their delegation. The core issue revolves around the United States' issuance of only 4 visas to the Iranian team's representatives. Critically, one visa has not been granted to Mehdi Taj, the president of the Iranian Football Federation, a development that has triggered the federation's stated conditions for participation. Speaking to Iranian television, Taj confirmed the federation's stance, stating they are actively evaluating their options, contingent upon timing and specific circumstances. He emphasized ongoing communication with the Iranian Foreign Ministry and other relevant authorities, asserting that a final decision will be made at the appropriate moment. The Executive Committee's firm position is that no member of the delegation will attend the draw unless the full visa requirements are met. The situation has escalated following the limited visa allocation, raising concerns about Iran's ability to participate in the upcoming World Cup. The draw itself is set to commence at 1700 GMT's at 1200 local time, and is a crucial stage in the qualification process. FIFA has not yet released a formal statement regarding the situation, however. BBC Sport has contacted the organization for comment. The lack of a visa for Taj, combined with the overall restrictive approach of the U.S. government, represents a serious obstacle to Iran's involvement in the tournament, and the Federation's response underscores the potential for further complications if the issue is not resolved promptly. The entire future of Iran's World Cup aspirations hinges on the successful acquisition of all necessary travel documents. SNEP work requirements rollout creates chaos and uncertainty. The rollout of expanded work requirements for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, a SNEP recipients, is generating significant disruption and uncertainty across the United States. Driven by the Republican Big Beautiful Bill, these requirements, designed to incentivize work among SNAP beneficiaries, are being implemented unevenly and with considerable challenges. The core of the issue lies in the new rules, which mandate that recipients aged 18 to 54 participate in work, volunteer, or job training for at least 80 hours a month. or they will only be eligible for benefits for 3 months out of every 3 years. The legislation also raised the age threshold for work requirements to 54 and included parents of children ages 14 through 17. Furthermore, states now face stricter criteria for obtaining waivers during periods of high unemployment, limiting their ability to temporarily ease requirements. States are struggling to adapt to these changes, leading to a chaotic implementation process. Many are grappling with outdated systems, a rushed timeline, and a lack of clear guidance from the USDA. Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and other states are experiencing significant delays, with an estimated 36,000 residents in Connecticut alone potentially at risk of losing benefits. The USDA's guidance has been inconsistent, and states are forced to develop temporary workarounds, such as manual data entry, to ensure compliance. The agency's focus on individual waivers has further complicated matters. States are also racing to inform SNAP beneficiaries, who may now be subject to the requirements, utilizing text messages, mailings, and online questionnaires. Approximately 248,000 additional SNAP recipients are now subject to the work requirements, a significant increase from the pre-legislation number of around 25,000. Pennsylvania, which saw a substantial expansion of work requirements, projects that 144,000 recipients could lose benefits over the next year due to eligibility renewals. Despite the challenges, states are actively working to verify recipients' income and ensure compliance. The potential for errors and missed administrative steps highlights the vulnerability of SNAP recipients and underscores the complexity of implementing such sweeping changes. The situation is further complicated by the ongoing government shutdown and the lack of consistent USDA direction. The overall impact is a heightened level of anxiety and uncertainty for SNAP recipients and the states administering the program. K-shaped economy drives divergent holiday spending patterns. U.S. retail sales experienced a 4.1% increase during Black Friday, driven by a robust 9.1% jump in online spending, according to data from MasterCard Spending Pulse and Adobe Analytics. However, this growth masks significant economic divisions. Inflation, estimated at 3%, significantly impacts the true purchasing power of consumers, suggesting actual spending may remain relatively flat. The economy is characterized by a K-shaped disparity, where high-income earners, bolstered by stock market gains and home valuations, continue to spend freely, while lower-income individuals are increasingly constrained by tight budgets and rising costs. Consumer sentiment is subdued, influenced by concerns about job security, slower job growth, and disruptions like the pause in Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program funding. 85% of consumers anticipate higher prices, largely attributed to President Trump's tariffs, impacting purchasing decisions. Value and discounts are paramount, leading consumers to favor retailers offering stretch dollar solutions. Walmart, TJ Maxx, Gap, and other discount retailers are benefiting from this shift, gaining market share across income groups. Conversely, Target and Bath & Body Works are struggling. Consumers are delaying personal spending and seeking deals. Online spending reached a record $6.4 billion on Thanksgiving, up 5.3% from last year, fueled by significant discounts. Buy now, pay later options are also gaining traction, with forecasts projecting a $20.2 billion in transactions between November 1 and December 31, an 11% increase. Overall, the National Retail Federation (NRF) projects $1 trillion in holiday spending, a 3.7% to 4.2% increase compared to last year. Despite economic pressures, shoppers are actively engaging in holiday spending, driven by the desire to participate in the holiday spirit. The NRF anticipates strong Cyber Monday sales, mirroring last year's performance. Consumer behavior is characterized by cautious spending, a preference for value, and the strategic use of digital payment methods. The Gaza Strip's economic crisis, a cash-starved population. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has triggered a catastrophic economic collapse, leaving the population severely lacking in cash and severely impacting daily life. Following the 2023 Hamas attack and subsequent war, Israel halted banknote transfers and bank operations, destroying most banks and restricting border crossings, leading to widespread poverty. With 4 in 5 people unemployed and access to cash severely limited, a unique business has emerged: banknote repairers like Bara Abu Al-Aun, meticulously restoring worn notes to maintain circulation. The lack of functioning banks and restricted crossings has fueled a reliance on informal money merchants who charge exorbitant commissions, sometimes reaching 50% to convert electronic transfers into cash. Shopkeepers and stall owners increasingly utilize bank apps, charging minor fees for transactions as a workaround. The Bank of Palestine has reopened 9 branches, primarily focused on account reactivation and app sign-ups, struggling to manage the overwhelming demand. Humanitarian organizations, including UNICEF and the World Food Program, are utilizing e-wallets to distribute cash aid directly to vulnerable families, particularly children, amputees, orphans, and pregnant women. These e-wallets, accessible without internet connections, are facilitating the purchase of essential goods like food, water, hygiene items, and electricity. UNICEF reports that 99% of aid is spent on food and water, with families facing exorbitant prices up to $8 for 2 kg of tomatoes and $70 for 5 kg of onions. Despite promises of an economic development plan from U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan, the situation remains dire, with the UN's trade agency describing Gaza as experiencing the most severe economic crisis ever recorded. The reliance on informal networks and limited access to funds highlight the urgent need for sustainable economic recovery and a return to normalcy, with no concrete plans currently in place to address the ongoing challenges. The crisis underscores the devastating impact of conflict on civilian populations and the critical role of humanitarian assistance in providing basic necessities. Royal Visit offers support to critically ill Gaza children. Prince William recently undertook a significant visit to meet with severely ill children from Gaza receiving treatment within the National Health Service, NHS. This action underscores a commitment to humanitarian support amidst ongoing conflict. 50 children, along with their families, are currently receiving specialist care in the UK as part of a UK government humanitarian mission initiated in September. The first evacuations of these critically ill children began at this time. While the identities of the evacuees remain undisclosed, government officials confirmed that the operation was facilitated through collaboration with international partners. This visit aligns with Prince William's broader ambition to foster more empathetic leadership around the world concerning humanitarian issues, as articulated in a recent documentary. He expressed a desire for change for good, advocating for meaningful shifts rather than radical alterations. The prince's focus on these children reflects a sincere wish to offer comfort and gratitude to those who have experienced unimaginable hardship. The visit was particularly poignant given the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas conflict, following Hamas's attacks on Israel on October 7, 2023, resulting in over 200 fatalities and the abduction of 251 individuals. Israel launched a military operation in Gaza. Since then, the humanitarian situation has deteriorated dramatically, with the Hamas-run health ministry reporting at least 7,100 deaths. A ceasefire was established on October 10th, but the devastating consequences of the conflict continue to unfold. The prince's engagement with these vulnerable children highlights the urgent need for global compassion and support in the face of immense suffering, demonstrating a commitment to offering solace and recognition to those impacted by the ongoing crisis. Taoiseach calls for Herzog Park renaming plan to be withdrawn. Dublin City Council's proposal to rename Herzog Park in Rathgar has ignited significant controversy, prompting a forceful response from the Irish government and the Israeli president. Taoiseach Michael Martin has demanded the motion be withdrawn, citing concerns about the potential for it to be perceived as anti-Semitic and a denial of the Irish Jewish community's long-standing contributions to Irish life. The proposal, initially raised by Labour Party councillor Fiona Connolly, stems from questions regarding the original naming process in 1995, following the death of Chaim Herzog, a former Israeli president born in Belfast. The Office of the President of Israel, led by Isaac Herzog, expressed deep concern over the move, arguing that removing the name would damage the unique expression of the historical connection between the Irish and Jewish peoples. Herzog's son, Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog, served as the first chief rabbi of the Irish Free State. The Israeli president emphasized Herzog's role in liberating Europe from Nazi occupation and his dedication to promoting freedom, tolerance, and the fight against anti-Semitism. Several Irish political figures have also voiced opposition. Nasty Simon Harris condemned the proposal as offensive to the principle of an inclusive republic, while Foreign Affairs Minister Helen McEntee criticized the move in the context of the government's existing stance on Israeli policies in Gaza and the West Bank. Jim O'Callaghan, Minister for Justice, highlighted the park's naming as a recognition of Herzog's connection to Ireland and the significant role played by Jewish people in Dublin's history. The Jewish Representative Council of Ireland, JRCY, has labeled the proposal deeply concerning, fearing it represents an attempt to erase Irish Jewish history. In 2014, a blue plaque commemorating Herzog's birthplace was removed due to vandalism and safety concerns. The controversy underscores ongoing tensions surrounding Israel's actions and the complex relationship between the Irish and Israeli Jewish communities. The vote on the motion is scheduled for Monday. Pro-Palestine demonstrations result in numerous arrests across England. Over the weekend, widespread pro-Palestine demonstrations across England led to the arrest of over 100 individuals under various laws, primarily the Terrorism Act and the Police Reform Act. Campaign group Defend Our Juries organized demonstrations in 10 locations, including Bristol, Manchester, Birmingham, and Norwich, protesting against government complicity in alleged genocide and the proscription of Palestine Action. Palestine Action was designated as a terrorist organization in July 2000. In Bristol, 31 individuals were arrested at College Green for suspected offences related to displaying support for Palestine Action. A further 34 were detained in Manchester's St. Peter's Square, while 25 in Birmingham were arrested carrying placards supporting Palestine Action. A separate incident in Norwich resulted in the arrest of 10 protesters under the Terrorism Act for displaying supportive materials. Simultaneously, a significantly larger demonstration in London, organized by the Palestine Coalition, drew approximately 100,000 participants. This event saw 5 arrests for suspected affray and Public Order Act offences. Demonstrators marched from Green Park to Whitehall, carrying Palestinian flags and engaging in chants and actions, including the use of green and red fireworks. Police forces across the country took action, recognizing the right to peaceful protest, but asserting their responsibility to address breaches of the law. The arrests highlight the ongoing tensions surrounding the conflict in the Middle East and the diverse tactics employed by pro-Palestine activists. The Bristol operation concluded safely, with all involved parties cooperating with law enforcement. The Met Police handled the London demonstration, managing the large crowd and responding to reported incidents of public disorder. The coordinated arrests underscore the scale and intensity of the pro-Palestine movement in England. Southeast Asia grapples with devastating floods and landslides, a severe weather event across Southeast Asia, fueled by monsoon rains and tropical storms, has resulted in a catastrophic loss of life and widespread displacement. The death toll has surpassed 442, with Indonesia bearing the brunt of the devastation, currently reporting 303 fatalities across Aceh, North Sumatra, and West Sumatra. This figure has risen dramatically from earlier estimates. Simultaneously, Thailand has recorded 145 deaths in its southern Songkhla province, doubling initial figures. Malaysia has reported 2 deaths. Indonesia's National Disaster Agency has confirmed the rising death toll, with 279 individuals still missing across the affected provinces. Major roads and bridges have been severed, hindering rescue efforts and necessitating the use of helicopters and light aircraft for delivering aid. The situation is particularly dire in Tapanuli, where residents have reportedly ransacked shops for food, and in West Sumatra, where homes have been completely submerged. In Thailand, record rainfall 335 mm in a single day overwhelmed Hat Yai, forcing hospital workers to relocate bodies to refrigerated trucks due to morgue capacity. Over 3.8 million people have been affected across 10 provinces. The disaster has displaced more than 126,000 people across the 3 Indonesian provinces. Military assets are being deployed to reopen routes and expedite logistics. The broader region, including Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam, has also experienced significant flooding. The combined impact of these events highlights the urgent need for disaster preparedness and response in the face of increasingly frequent and intense extreme weather events. International aid and support are being mobilized to assist affected communities. The Thai government has pledged compensation of up to 2 million baht for families who have lost loved ones. Southeast Asia faces devastating flood crisis, a catastrophic series of floods and landslides across Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Sri Lanka has resulted in over 600 fatalities and displaced millions. Torrential rains fueled by a tropical storm in the Malacca Strait caused widespread devastation, with Indonesia accounting for the highest death toll at 435, followed by Thailand with 170 and Malaysia with 3. Sri Lanka reported 153 deaths, alongside 191 missing and over 500,000 affected. Indonesia's hardest-hit region was West Sumatra, where 3 provinces experienced devastating landslides and flooding. Communication was severely hampered by blocked roads and damaged telecommunications infrastructure, necessitating the use of helicopters to deliver aid. Residents in Padang City described harrowing experiences, with homes and businesses completely destroyed, forcing many to seek refuge in makeshift shelters. Looting of supply lines was reported due to growing desperation. Thailand's southern region, particularly Songkhla province, suffered heavily, with 131 fatalities and 102 injuries attributed to extreme rainfall, a record 335 NRM recorded in Hat Yai. Malaysia saw approximately 18,700 people in evacuation centers, with the National Disaster Management Agency lifting tropical storm warnings. The Malaysian Foreign Ministry facilitated the evacuation of over 6,200 nationals stranded in Thailand and issued an advisory to citizens in West Sumatra to register with the local consulate. A 30-year-old Malaysian was reported missing following a landslide in the region. Across the Bay of Bengal, Sri Lanka faced a separate crisis, with 153 deaths and 191 missing, highlighting the widespread impact of extreme weather events in Southeast Asia. The The combined scale of the disaster underscored the urgent need for disaster preparedness and relief efforts in the affected nations. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing assessments of damage and continued efforts to locate missing individuals and provide assistance to displaced populations. The extreme weather events have exposed vulnerabilities within the region and prompted calls for improved infrastructure and disaster response systems.